Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 things The Lord of the Rings left out.
If I take one more step, it'll be the farthest away from home I've ever been.
For this list, we're going over the characters, scenes, and concepts from the Lord of the Rings books that were completely omitted from the movie adaptations. To be clear, we won't be including anything the movies added, like the warg attack in the Two Towers, as new things could have a list of their own. If there's one thing to rule them all in the books that didn't appear in the movies, please tell us in the comments. Number 10. The Hobbit references. The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Both in publication and in chronology, The Hobbit came before The Lord of the Rings. However, it was The Lord of the Rings that got the big screen treatment first.
It was picked up by the most unlikely creature imaginable.
What's this?
A hobbit.
Thus, to avoid making mention of a story the audience wasn't widely familiar with, a lot of references to The Hobbit were removed from the films, particularly from Fellowship. Even so, there remain a few winks to their events here and there, especially where Bilbo is involved.
It's so light. Yes, made by the elves, you know.
However, all the references to Thorin's company of dwarves, and even the appearances of some of them, are absent from the movies.
You are welcome anytime.
Number 9. Battles all over Middle-earth. The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King. As epic as the film battles are, they only scratch the surface of all the ones present in the books. The War of the Ring is a true world war, with battles happening all over Middle-earth. But the movies, and truthfully the books too, mostly focus on the battles in the south. However, there is still mention of battles happening at the Lonely Mountain, Mirkwood, and Lothlorien, as well as more fighting all over Gondor. As cool as it would have been to see Thranduil lead his elves into battle, this is once again an instance of things from The Hobbit being cut. Number 8. Radagast the Brown. The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Gandalf and Saruman are not the only wizards around. Radagast the Brown is closer with nature than the other two, and also has a way with animals.
Where on this good earth did those foul creatures come from?
He briefly appears in The Lord of the Rings, bringing word to Gandalf from Saruman, and later helping the Grey Wizard escape the White One's clutches after his betrayal. The appendices also elaborate on Radagast's history and his role in both this story and in the events of The Hobbit. However, it wouldn't be until the film adaptation of The Hobbit that we got to see Radagast on screen in all his unique glory.
I followed their trail. They came from Dol Guldur.
Number 7. Bill Ferny, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, and The Return of the King. Speaking of missing characters, a lot of minor ones got the axe in the film trilogy. In the books, Bill Ferny is an unscrupulous human from Bree. While the movies depict Bree as somewhat sinister in general, in the novels it's much more hospitable. And it's only thanks to unscrupulous people like Bill that the hobbits are put on edge. He sells them out to the Nazgul, and works as a spy for Saruman. He also shows up near the end of the trilogy, during a section that we'll be discussing later. The only sign of Bill Ferny in the films, though, is his pony, which still bears his name.
Mines are no place for a pony. Even one so brave as Bill.
Bye-bye, Bill.
Number 6. Denethor's Palantir Insanity. The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. Denethor is the steward of Gondor, as well as the father of Boromir and Faramir. A proud and judgmental man, Denethor is nevertheless a good leader, at least before the War of the Ring.
Leave me.
He ultimately falls into despair and refuses to call for aid from Rohan, and even decides to take Faramir's life along with his own, believing there to be no hope of winning against Sauron.
Set a fire in our flesh.
while the movies paint this as garden variety fatalism and gradual insanity, book readers know it's more than that. Denethor has actually been using one of the Palantir, or seeing stones, to spy on enemy movements. Much like Saruman, Denethor falls under Sauron's influence while using it, driving him mad.
But against the power that is risen in the east, there is no victory.
Number 5. Baragond, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. The source of Denethor's madness was not the only thing missing from Minas Tirith.
Minas Tirith, City of Kings.
In the books, while staying there, Pippin befriends one of his fellow guards, Baragond, as well as his son, Bergil. Baragond shows Pippin around the city, as well as aiding Pippin in rescuing Faramir from Denethor's pyre. In the films, Baragond's role is largely filled by Gandalf, so we can understand why the movies cut the character.
Oh, it's too late for that, Peregrine. There's no leaving this city.
Even so, it still would have been nice to see more of the perspective of the average citizen of Gondor, when so many characters in the movie franchise are royalty. Number 4. Sam and Frodo's Visions, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. In Lothlorien, the Fellowship meets Galadriel. The ancient elven queen has magical abilities beyond most other elves. Through a basin of water, or a mirror, she is able to show people the past, present, and possible futures.
Even the wisest cannot tell, for the mirror shows many things.
Or, as she says,
Things that were, things that are, and some things that have not yet come to pass.
in the films, only Frodo looks into the mirror. He sees a potential future of the Shire in flames, as well as the Eye of Sauron. However, the books have both him and Sam looking into the water. Sam's vision is similar to the first part of Frodo's, seeing things going wrong in the Shire, but also during parts of his and Frodo's journey in Mordor. Frodo too sees something different in the books, a wizard that could be Saruman or Gandalf. Number 3. The Barrow Downs, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. The Hobbit's journey from the Shire to Bree is much longer in the books. On the way, they pass through the Barrow Downs.
Half the stories I've heard about the Barrow Downs are true. We'll need to keep a careful watch.
This hilly region is dotted with graves of soldiers from the Old Kingdom of Men in the north. The graves were also haunted by Barrow Wights, and one of them ensnares the hobbits. Fortunately, they're rescued by someone we'll be discussing soon. It's understandable that this portion of the story was cut, though, since the journey to Bree and then on to Rivendell is already fraught with danger and spooky foes. Number 2. Tom Bombadil, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring.
Well, my little fellows, you shall come to the house of Tom Bombadil.
Tom Bombadil is a seemingly ordinary man who lives east of the Shire with his wife Goldberry. Prone to delight in small things and fond of singing, Tom's jolly attitude and simple nature hides the fact that he's one of the most mysterious and powerful beings in Middle-earth. Tom is able to not only wear the ring without turning invisible, he can also see Frodo when he's wearing it. What's more, he rescues the hobbits from Wights and Old Man Willow, a section which sort of appears in the extended Two Towers. It does remove some of the ring's mystique to have a strange fellow who lives in the woods able to wear it without consequence, so it's perhaps understandable why Peter Jackson chose not to include Bombadil.
His precious ring has no power over Tom Bombadil. And now, merry friends, it is time for our supper.
Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions. Meeting elves in the Shire, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Frodo and Sam were supposed to meet elves passing through to the Grey Havens.
Going to the harbor beyond the White Towers. To the Grey Havens.
The Grey Company, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. Aragorn retrieved his dead army with 31 rangers and Elrond's sons.
It was made by those who are dead, and the dead keep it.
Fredegar Fatty Bolger, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, and The Return of the King. The four hobbits originally had a fifth friend who stayed behind. Quickbeam, The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. Merry and Pippin hung out with this hasty Ent during Entmoot.
Oak, chestnut, ash, good. Many have come.
So many songs and poems. The Lord of the Rings franchise. The movies cut down on almost all the verses. Very few made it in.
Behind the world ahead.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. The Scouring of the Shire. The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. One of the largest omissions from the movies is this section towards the end of the story. Upon returning to the Shire from their adventures, the four hobbits discovered that it's been taken over by evil gangs, who take their orders from Saruman.
All that was once green and good in this world will be gone. There won't be a Shire, Pippin.
The heroes manage to rally the hobbits in defense of their home and fight to take it back. Elements of it can still be seen in the finished films, such as in Frodo's vision in Galadriel's mirror, as well as Saruman's death in the extended edition.
You withdraw your guard, and I will tell you where your doom will be decided. I will not be held prisoner here.
However, given how many people complained there were too many endings in the theatrical version of The Return of the King, we get why Jackson cut the sequence.
Well, I'm back.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.